So, what inspired you to pursue a career in law, and how's that shaped your approach to representing clients today?
Yeah, so actually, I am the youngest of a family of four kids. My entire family immigrated to the US when I was just 1 years old. And uh, all three of my siblings, my older brother, my two older sisters, they all went to medicine. They're all medical doctors. And so they certainly set like high standards and goals for me. And as I kind of thought about what kind of path I wanted to take professionally, I started to recognize that uh, the way we use words, whether they were written or spoken, were in, had the potential to be incredibly powerful. A lot of medical doctors, besides the financial security and that kind of thing, they go into that field because they want to have a significant impact on the lives of others. And I recognize that as a lawyer, using words to persuade, to advocate, to make arguments had the incredible potential to make a really powerful impact in the lives of others. So they all went to medical school. I ended up going to law school, but it's always been a big goal for me in my career to use the education, the training, the skills, the experience I developed to make a positive impact in the lives of others. So, you know, how that affects my practice, the way I represent my clients, is it's really kind of like a North Star for me. Uh, Cases can be incredibly complicated. They may bring up all sorts of thorny issues, legal, practical, um, and the way I can always just sort through all that is to ask myself, what's the way in which I can have the most positive impact on my client? And that helps me to organize my thinking, come up with a strategy, and it really simplifies things. At the end of the day, when we bring a case to a positive resolution, whether it's through a settlement or through a trial, that's really the greatest satisfaction I take out of it.
You were mentioning that all your siblings are doctors and then you're a lawyer, and I know they all went to good schools, as did you. You went to Yale for undergrad and the New York University for law school. What do you think? How did your parents have uh, anything to do with all the siblings being ultra successful?
Well, first and foremost, they just, by their own example, my dad went to Seoul National University uh, in Korea, and he ended up becoming a professor at a university before we immigrated. My mom went to one of the top women's universities in Korea, and she ended up becoming a pharmacist. They both left that, and we came to the US really with very little, and they both worked really hard to go to school again. My dad went to the University of Nebraska. He himself became a doctor of pharmacy. My mom got her master's at Loma Linda University, and she became a medical technician. So, as long as I can remember, they were either working hard or studying. And so we just thought that's what you do. They didn't really do a lot of nagging or kind of negative pressure towards us. Oh, you have to study. You have to do this. You know that's our love or our acceptance of you is conditional on your academic or professional success. There wasn't anything like that. It was just the way that they lived their lives and set examples for us.
Because I know a lot of Korean parents do push their kids, you know, for education at the very least. So that's kind of unique that they did not. Um, you're now handling quite a few medical malpractice cases. How do you, so does the medicine that kind of the familiarity with the medicine that you grew up with help in that way at all?
Oh, not necessarily. My siblings all went to medical school. Two of them are primary care physicians. The third is a surgeon. And so certainly I know peripherally things from what they might talk about, but from my practice standpoint, uh, each case, especially the medical malpractice cases, become a new challenge and a new opportunity to become like a mini expert in that particular issue. I'd never heard of C. diff before, which is, a pretty serious infection that patients can get, and that became the central issue in the case we went to trial on earlier this year. And then, this trial that we just finished last month, had to do with a medial meniscus tear. And so I knew a lot about that just from, practical life experience, but then, you have to become an expert in that. So uh, what what you have to do to be effective, even if it's not a medical malpractice case, even if it's an auto accident or premises case, you have to become an expert in the central injury. The medical malpractice cases are just a lot more complex because above and beyond the injury itself, you have to go into the breach of the standard of care, the medical malpractice, to be able to grapple with that and effectively litigate those issues.
Many people feel intimidated when they're seeking legal help. How does uh how do you deal with and make the process more approachable and client friendly?
Yeah, so I give a lot of credit to Park Shinar, to our founding partners, to all the members of the team here. I think the initial client contact is typically through a phone call, or maybe some people will walk into one of our offices. Um, the pre-litigation team, each one of them, and there are multiple ones, they just are really good at being able to answer questions. Sometimes there's a language barrier. We've got multiple staff members, case managers who are fluent in Korean and English, others with Spanish, even some with Russian as well. So we really want people to be able to understand, often in their own first language, you know, what is going on, what they can anticipate, and be able to be comfortable communicating with members of our team. Another, big question that clients have are, how am I going to pay for all this, right? They know that attorneys fees are typically very expensive when they're charged on an hourly basis, and you have paralegals and you have experts and so forth. And so, like other firms, Park Shinar, we handle cases on a contingency basis, which means that we meet with potential clients, talk to them about, what happened to cause them injury, and then make an assessment about whether it's a case that we can effectively, bring into first an injury claim and then later on into litigation if necessary. And when we accept a case, we will always do that on a contingency basis, which means that rather than paying, me or a paralegal, uh, you know, bills on an hourly basis, that we'll only take an attorney's fee if we're able to bring that case into positive resolution, either through settlement or even all the way through trial. So that's something I think that is reassuring for clients. And the initial consultation, there's never any charge for that. We want people to be able to get their questions answered and work together to see if it's a case that we'll be able to take on.
What legal challenges are you seeing most frequently in the community right now, and how are you helping clients navigate those?
Yeah, just on every case, and especially medical malpractice cases, especially cases where there are big corporations involved as defendants. The biggest issue I see is the power disparity. The power disparity between defendants and their insurance carriers, and then the everyday, citizens, people, who are hurt by the negligence of others. And you know, it's um, it's incredibly daunting if an individual had to try to go up against corporate entity that has millions or even millions of dollars in resources. Uh, and insurance companies, the same, who are willing to expend, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend claims. They had to go up against those entities on their own. It'd be very, very difficult. So, for me, the biggest challenge I see for injured individuals is going up against these really well-resourced corporations who, for them, the bottom line is their primary motivating factor. So they'll spend whatever money they think is necessary to prevail. So for us, I see a lot of what we do is evening the playing field. Uh, we have the resources to be able to retain the experts and so forth to go up against the experts at these corporate entities, whether they're insurance companies or the defendants themselves, the ones that they're going to hire. And we bring our expertise and our experience and our hard work to bear to go toe to toe with that power dynamic and even it and make it a fair fight.
And you may have kind of answered this question in answering the other one, but in your experience, what sets your practice apart from other lawyers in the field?
Yeah, if I had, I think there are a lot of things that separate my practice that from others. Uh, but if you had to maybe point to one thing, then it would be my experience with jury trials, my willingness to take a case all the way to trial, and just the fact, looking at past history, the fact that I just almost always win the jury trials that I take on. So that actually has a huge impact on how I am effectively able to represent my clients all the way through the entire process.
And
Because,
how many jury trials have you had?
oh, counting the two we just did this year, it would be, I think my best estimate is 52. Yeah, 52 jury trials, and on top of that, an additional 15 bench trials and numerous arbitrations as well.
And just so people get a sense of what that is, um, in your experience with the other lawyers around you, what do you think the average personal injury lawyer, um, well, what do you think the average amount of trials they've done, if you were to make your best estimate?
Well, if I had to estimate, I think there'd probably be a surprising number of personal injury attorneys who are out there practicing for years who've actually never gone all the way to trial.
Yeah.
Uh, and and there are those who have been to trial, but maybe just a few times. Um, the vast majority of personal injury attorneys working now have not gone to trial more than a dozen times.
Yeah. If I were to guess, I would say that over 90% of personal injury lawyers have less than three trials in their whole career.
Yeah, you probably have a better sense of that than I do,
Yeah.
having been in this for so many more years. So yeah, the reason why it has such a powerful impact, obviously, if you know think about uh, uh, the end result, if I actually do end up going to trial for a client, then having that experience, having the skill, having the ability is hugely important. But that has such a positive impact all the way up to trial because I worked for Farmers Insurance for 18, 19 years, ending up handling their most serious cases in the state of Washington, and I went to trial 25 times for Farmers Insurance. One of the biggest questions that the insurance company will always ask on any given case, as we're talking, settlement negotiations, going to mediation and that sort of thing, they always want to know whether the plaintiff's attorney on the other side, whether that attorney, that firm, whether they try cases or not, or whether they, talk big, but at the end of the day, they'll just cave and take, you know, the uh, the last offer that's on the table. And so that's something that the insurance companies want to assess because again, the bottom line is the most important thing for them. They want to know how much, are they going to have to expend the additional resources with experts and so forth, especially if they're a private law firm and the defense attorneys are charging by the hour. They want to know whether the other attorney, the plaintiff's attorney, is actually willing to go to trial and whether the costs of going to trial are going to actually become a reality. But then they really want to know how effective that opposing attorney is if the plaintiff's attorney has trial experience, and if they do, how effective are they at trial? Because that's in a sense a multiplier because there's so much that's subjective and there's so much that's unpredictable in terms of what can happen in a personal injury jury trial, especially when the big numbers often come with general damages, which the public often understand to be pain and suffering, mental distress, negative impact on relationships, and that sort of thing. A very effective trial attorney can bring in verdicts that are much higher than an inexperienced one, or someone who just maybe doesn't have the skill or the ability or just kind of the natural qualities that allow them to connect with the jury and for jurors to trust them and to see the case the way that they present it. So when the insurance carriers try to conduct that analysis, that absolutely connects to how much they're willing to pay to resolve cases. So even for the cases that we don't end up going all the way to trial for, having that trial experience, that track record, and that reputation allows us to get really the best recoveries for our client.
Yeah, and what I've seen even within our own firm, but definitely over the years, is that an attorney can make so much a difference on the value of the case. If you took the same exact facts of a case and you had a very, very skilled lawyer like yourself versus maybe a newer attorney who doesn't have that type of experience, the difference in value can be the difference between a $150,000 settlement and a $750,000 settlement. So a significant amount, and it makes the difference of almost a couple $100,000 in the client's pocket. So if it's the more serious the injury, the more amplified the difference between a skilled lawyer and a newer lawyer is, or even an experienced lawyer who's not as skilled, not willing to put in the work, and doesn't have much trial experience. Um, there's a significant difference in value that I've seen.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that's fair to conclude, based on the cases that we have litigated and prepared for trial, and then we're able to secure recoveries that, uh, I think were not just very fair for our clients, but, you know, I think we're able to secure higher recoveries both because of the way that we prepare the cases in litigation, as well as having the experience and the reputation and the capability to take the cases to trial. And I know that the defense attorneys and the insurance carriers factor that in the ultimate settlements.
Yeah, and even if the case doesn't ultimately come to you, just because you are with the firm and that there's a chance that it comes to you, even that increases the value of all our settlements in the office. So yeah, it's a big help. Looking ahead, how do you see the role of attorneys evolving, and how are you prepared to meet those changes?
Yeah, just like in so many different industries, I think the big dynamic that is just really sending a seismic shift through the the field of law is the role of AI. And people often will kind of focus on the idea that, oh, there's some attorney who got in trouble for using AI to write a brief, and we would never do anything like that. But I know that the firm has expended some significant resources in investing in the most cutting edge AI tools, whether it be case management software or programs to help with medical chronologies and that sort of thing. And I have used AI myself to be able to uh, really save just hours of time in perhaps preparing an outline for a trial witness or coming developing an overall flow chart for trial strategies. you know this is not, in my view, a replacement for skilled and experienced legal work. To me, what it does is it's a tremendous time saver to really raise the baseline of the quality of our legal services, and frees us up, giving us the time and the bandwidth to really develop even more sophisticated and more effective legal strategies on every case. So, if I think about a firm that's just kind of stubbornly resisting, you know, recognizing the powerful tool of AI versus another that does recognize it and provides it as a resource, to all members of the firm, not just the attorneys, but paralegals, legal assistants, case managers, and just elevates the overall practice. I think that second firm has a huge leg up, a huge advantage over the ones that are just kind of using that that one example of the attorney who used AI to write a brief and got in trouble. If they use that as an excuse to not move with the development of this, like light, it's like light speed, how AI is developing and improving, then I think they're just doing themselves and their clients a disservice.
I agree. Well, thanks for the interview and the time, Marv. This is helpful for anybody who's listening, so thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, bye.